All right, everyone. So this video is going to serve to help walk you through the candle burn rate investigation. I unfortunately will not be there to walk you through it in class, so we're going to do this completely remotely. Um, I want to make sure that I cover all the different parts of the investigation sheet, of the data sheet, and direct you to the video so you can watch the demonstration of the experiment in which I burn candles that are three different temperatures so that you can determine if the temperature of the candle affects its burn rate. Otherwise, how fast it burns. So, anyway, in classroom, where you can see right here, this investigation is going to open up tomorrow morning. I'm going to open this up right now and show you the parts inside. Just want to let you know that you've got two different documents that you're going to be filling out. That's what these two things are right here. Your job will be to go through the candle burn rate investigation sheet, which I will go through with you in just a moment, and fill out the different parts of the scientific method um, as we're learning it. The candle burn rate data sheet is where you're going to record information based on the experiment that I did earlier in the year, and I have a video of it right there. So, anyway, when you click on this candle burn rate investigation sheet, you're going to get to this document right here. And this document right here walks us through all of the different parts of the scientific method just so that you can see the different parts that you need to fill out. So, for instance, first of all, it says please fill out in each section to complete this investigation sheet. So, when we observe a phenomenon, there's a question to help prompt you. So, you need to fill that out. 5 characteristics for birthday candles that you have seen or used in the past. Part number 2, I've actually done the investigative question for you this first time because that's what we're investigating right now. Does the temperature of a candle affect its burn rate? And so I will explain a little bit later what it is that I did. Actually, you'll see it in the video itself. Develop a hypothesis. This is your job to come up with what we call an if-then statement. And it's to answer this question, what do you think will have the biggest effect on the burn rate of the candle? Remember, I'm going to have 3 different candles that I'm burning, and they are coming from 3 different temperatures. One of them will be cold, one of them will be having sat at room temperature, and the other one will be a warm candle. I'm going to light all 3 of them and then let them burn and see if the temperature affects anything about how fast they burn. So an if-then statement is where you propose something with the if, and then you say what you think is going to happen with the then part of the statement. For instance, let me give you an example of a hypothesis. If I am looking at the amount of sunlight, or rather the effect that sunlight has on a growing plant. And so I would test a plant by putting it in front of the sun, watering it every day, and I would compare that to another plant that's not in sunlight, just so I can see the difference. I could I could create a hypothesis. If I put a plant in front of sunlight by the window and water it every day, then it will grow faster and taller than the plant that's not in front of the sunlight. That would be a good hypothesis for that example. So you look at this question, does temperature of a candle affect its burn rate? You come up with a hypothesis to answer that question in a way that we could test. Once you've developed your hypothesis, we move on and we now need to think about the variables. Okay? We talk about identify variables. Please remember, all of these different parts that we're talking about in this investigation can be found in your experimental design scientific method notes, the Google slides that you received last week. Those are in classroom from last week. When we talk about the independent variable, we are talking about the variable that we change. So think about what it is that we are changing from candle to candle. The dependent variable refers to the thing that we are measuring. So think about what it is that I'm going to be measuring as these candles burn. The constant or the control, those are words that can be used interchangeably. Those deal with the variables or the parts of this experiment that we want to remain the same. So, for instance, we start out with the same size candle. The material, all the candles have the same material. We don't want different material candles. The shape of the candle as well obviously has something to do with it. Same type of wick, which is little string inside of the candle. The same brand. All three of these candles that you'll see in my video came from the same package. I use putty underneath to hold those candles in place. And then how long, how many minutes I am using to test burning these candles should be the same for all three. So I've filled out your constant / control variables. I want you to brainstorm and come up with what the independent variable is, and you write it in, replace that line with your answer, and what the dependent variable is, replace that line with your answer. Okay. Then we get to the actual test of the experiment itself. This link right here on your copy will take you to my YouTube video, which shows you the experiment that I conducted in which I burned all three candles. All right. This link, this YouTube video is also linked to Classroom for you to be able to see. It's actually right there. So that's what you'll want to click to watch. And while you're watching that, you're going to be collecting data on your candle burn rate data sheet, which I'm going to show you right here. So this candle burn rate data graph right now is empty. It's got three spots, three columns rather, for cold, room temperature, and warm. The way this is going to work is while you are watching the video, you should have this Google data sheet up and ready to fill in data as I announce it during the video. So every 30 seconds, you will see in the video that I will be measuring with a ruler all three candles that are burning. I will call out a number for each one that obviously is in centimeters. Your job will be to fill in these data cells with those numbers as I call them out in the video. You'll notice a pretty cool thing happens because I have this data table connected to this graph. And this graph is I'm going to help you connect it to your investigation sheet that's got the graph in there as well. As you put numbers into these different cells, you will notice, like for instance, I'll go ahead and I'll just put a 5 there, and I'll put I'll put a 5.5, and then I'll put maybe a 4.8 right there. And you can see now the lines are adding to the data graph right there to correspond with these numbers right here. So these are not the actual numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of those, and you notice how it goes away in the graph. So as you fill out this data chart, this data table here, with the numbers that I call out from the experiment video, your graph will basically create itself right here. It's actually pretty neat. This data sheet is going to be worth 10 points. So I need for you to pay attention to that video and put the different pieces of data, the correct numbers in the correct cells as I call them out, so that you have the correct amount of data. Once you've done that, there's something that I need for you to do. All right. Since we are in Classroom, every time, when you click on this actual document, it's going to create your own copy. Same with this data sheet. It's going to create your own copy. I discovered something last quarter when I set this up. By creating your own copy, that gives you, like I said, this copy that you can fill out with your own. It'll have your name up here next to the title of the document, which I know you've clicked on copies before. All right. This graph right here in the investigation Google Doc is connected to the graph in our data sheet. It's the same as this graph here. Here's the only difference. The graph that's in your document is connected to Mr. Perkins' copy of the data sheet. Now we need to change that because I want when you put this data into this data table, I want that the data will create the graph here, and then I want it to also be able to create the graph in this investigation sheet. So there's something we have to do. Listen very carefully. I'm going to have you click on this graph. I'm going to have you go up to Edit, Copy. So I want you to copy this graph. Then you're going to come over here to the investigation sheet. I want you to click on that graph. And then I want you to go Edit and then Paste. It says, do you want it to link to spreadsheet? Yes, you do. But here's what we're doing. We're creating this graph in this sheet is going to be connected to your copy of the data sheet, not Mr. Perkins' copy. So that you need to do paste. And what'll happen is it just replaces it with now the data sheet that's connected to your copy. If you don't do that copy and paste that I just told you, then when you put in data into this data table, it will not transfer over to this data table here. All right. The next thing I need to show you is what happens when I add some data like I did. So what did I have? I had 5, I had 5.5, and I had 4.8, I think is what I put. All right. Now, notice how it changed the graph. If I go over to my investigation sheet and I click on the graph, look at how it says update there now. All right. Here's something cool. So look again, there's your graph and you've got those little marks there. But notice how I don't see those little marks here. When I click update, watch what happens. Give it a second. Boom, there they are. Those are the little marks there. All right. So after you've collected your data in this data table for the video that you're going to watch, then you'd go over to your investigation and you'd update it on this one, and it'll add that information to this graph right here. Okay. So that's a neat little feature that you can do. All right. Now, after you have collected your data, it says collect all your data on the candle burn rate lab data sheet. Okay. Then it's time to look at the data and focus on a little bit of analysis. Please explain what a downward slope from left to right in your graph represents. All right. So you'll have to look at the graph once you've created it, and you have to look and see what the downward slope looks like for the graph, and then explain what that represents. Your second question is about the temperature of the candle. So read through that question, and then I want you to answer it in this box right here. After we're done with our data analysis, our final step of the scientific method will be to draw conclusions. And in this particular case, when we're drawing conclusions, the best way to draw a conclusion is to think about what you hypothesized. So what did you hypothesize means you need to scroll back up to your hypothesis. What did I write down for my hypothesis? What do I think is going to happen with different temperature candles? All right. The next part of the conclusion is, what did the data say? So you hypothesized something. Now you're going to compare it with the data that we have here. So our data table and our data graph. And you're using that data to help you determine what the data said. You need to describe it in here. Explain why, or explain what the differences are between your hypothesis and what the data said. So what did you hypothesize? What data did you collect? What's the difference? And that's what you'd write here as an explanation. We're talking 3 to 4 sentences for a good conclusion. Also, I want to make sure that you answer this question as well. Tell one thing that you learned about the candle burning. That's another part that I would like for you to answer for this drawing conclusions. All right. That would complete your lab investigation on this sheet right here, along with your data that's been collected in this data table, and then this graph, which you have transferred over to your investigation sheet. The last thing I have here is an extra credit assignment. All right. It's completely up to you whether you want to do this or not, but 10 points is not a bad way to start your quarter. So once you've watched the investigation video that I have on YouTube here that shows you the candles that are burning at their different rates, I want you to, if you're interested in this extra credit, to create some sort of advertisement, some way to market these candles based on this test that we've done of these candles to see the best way to get the public to want to buy these birthday candles. All right. It can be a Google Slides presentation. You could do it as a video. I had a couple kids that did a video last quarter. Make sure you use your data and your graph that you collected to help back up your selling point. Because remember, you're trying to do an advertisement to get people to buy these candles. All right. If you have questions about this, you can email me. You could add the whatever you've done for this extra credit to the end of this document. You could create your own document and you could turn it in Classroom with this assignment that we're doing. You could create a Google Slides presentation, share it with me. Just make sure that you let me know what you plan on doing. That way I can look for it and hopefully you can earn some extra credit. Please remember, I'm not just going to give you extra credit for creating a document and saying, try these candles, they're amazing. That's not a very good or interesting advertisement. It needs to be something that will catch my attention. All right. So be creative if you want those 10 points extra credit. All right, folks. So that is your candle burn rate investigation sheet. I'm hoping this video has helped you. Please remember, in Classroom, you're going to open up that document. That's what you're filling in with your different parts of the scientific method. You're going to open up that document, which is where you're going to record your data. You're going to click that YouTube video and watch as I run this experiment. You can see right there I am, and I'll kind of walk you through the different steps. And actually, you'll see that this is that data sheet right behind me on the board. This is where you're going to be recording your information based on this test that you see me do right here in this video. All right. Once those things are done, be sure to turn this investigation in Classroom so that I have it turned in and I can start scoring it. All right. I would like this entire thing to be done by Friday, October 30th. Gives you a week to work on this. All right. So if you have any questions, since I won't see you in class during the week, make sure you email me. Come to my office hours from 2 to 2:15. Check the Google link on the stream in Classroom. You can come find me and we will make sure we figure this out. All right. Hope you guys have a great week and I will talk to you soon.